Now we need to implement this mathematical formulation into GAMS. From the GAMS input file, we can see the structure. We first should define the sets, and also we need to input the data, and then we define variables and equations, write model and solve statements, and then we use the display statement to display the optimal results. In the mathematical formulation, we have sets, so we need to input the sets into the GAMS. How can we define sets in GAMS? This is the syntax to define sets in GAMS. It starts with the keyword set or sets. Both of them are the same. There is no difference between set or sets and sets. And then after that, we should provide the name of the set. And then is the text that is used to describe the meaning of this set. After the text, we have two slashes. In these two slashes, we can input the elements that belongs to this set. If we have multiple elements, then we should use a comma to separate them, or we can input these elements at different lines. If we finish, then we need to add semicolon. If we want to continue to define another set in the same statement, then we should remove this semicolon and continue to provide the name of another set, and then text to describe the meaning of this set, and two slashes. Between these two slashes, we can input elements that belongs to this set. If we define different sets in one line, then we should use comma to separate different sets. If we define different sets in different lines, then we don't need to use comma, because these different sets are separated by an end of line. After we define this statement, we need to add semicolon to tell GAMS this statement is finished. Okay, let's see these two examples to show you how to define sets in GAMS. In the first example, it starts with the keyword sets and provide set name I, text to describe the meaning of this set, and two slash. Between these two slash, two elements are input. They are Seattle and San Diego. These two elements are separated by a comma. Another set J is also defined in the same statement, but this set J is defined in another line, so we don't need to use comma to separate this set J with set I, because they are separated automatically by the end of line here. The name of the other set is J, and next is the text used to describe the meaning of this set. After that, two slashes. Between these two slashes, three elements are input for this set J: New York, Chicago, and Topeka. Two commas are used to separate these three elements. Then this set statement is finished. Then a semicolon is added to tell GAMS this statement is finished. In the second example, it also starts with the keyword set and then the name of the set CQ. After that is text used to describe the meaning of this set, and two slashes. Between these two slashes, two elements are input. They are N and P205. Because these two elements are input in different lines, so we don't need to use comma to separate them. They are separated automatically by the end of line. After that, semicolon is added to tell GAMS this statement is finished. Finally, I also want to mention multi-word names are not allowed. For instance, we have New York. We cannot input this multi-word name into GAMS. We should use hyphen between New and York. Otherwise, if you directly input New York, the multiple word name into GAMS, then GAMS will give you error message. In other words, when we provide the names of sets, the names of elements, the names of parameters, the names of variables, equations, we cannot have space in those names. We can use hyphen to connect different words in those names. There are other examples to show you how to define sets in GAMS. So here we use different statements to define different sets. Each set is defined in a single statement. If elements in a set follow a sequence, then we can use asterisks. For instance, if we have a set T and the element of this set is from 1991 to 2000, we don't need to list all elements in this set when we define this set. We can use the first element asterisks and then the last element. If we define like this, it is same as we list all elements from 1991 to 2000. You can see, using this asterisk, it is very convenient to input elements that follow a sequence in a set. We cannot define a set more than once. For instance, if in the beginning we define this set CF, and later if we define this set CF again, then GAMS will give you error message. If we have two identical sets with different names, of course we can use set statement to define them, but we can also use alias to give another name to a previously declared set. For instance, if we have two identical sets T and TP, so we can directly use alias T and TP. If we define set T, then this means the set TP is same as set T. Finally, I want to mention the set we defined so far is static sets. The elements in these sets cannot change. If you want to change them, then GAMS will give you error message. Sometimes we also want to define some set whose element also belongs to the previously defined set, then we can use subset in GAMS. The syntax of define subset is very similar to the syntax defining set. The only difference is that after we provide the name of the subset, we need to use two brackets. In the bracket, we need to provide the set name that are defined previously to tell GAMS the element of this subset belongs to which previously defined set. For instance, we define two sets I and j. Now we define a subset K. And then, after we provide the name of the subset K, we need to use bracket. In the bracket, we need to provide the name of the set previously defined to tell GAMS the element of this subset K belongs to which set previously defined. In this example, we define the subset K and also we put the previous defined set name J. That means the element of this subset K belonging to the set J. So here, the element of this subset K is New York and Chicago. The element Topeka from set J is not included in this subset. There are two ways to assign element when we define a subset. So first, we can assign elements to a subset when we declare this subset. And also, we can first declare this subset using the set statement. After we finish the set statement, then we can assign elements to this subset one by one. So here you can see we assign New York and assign Chicago to this subset K. If you want to see whether you assign correctly or not, you can display this subset using the display statement. We can also define multi-dimensional subset. For instance, if we want to define a subset to denote Seattle to New York and San Diego to Chicago, then we can define a subset ij1. We need to provide the name of the set previously defined to tell GAMS the elements of this subset belongs to which sets that are previously defined. In this subset, we have some element from set I and also some element from set J. That's why we have to use ij. And then we can assign elements to this subset. So Seattle, the element from set I dot, don't forget this dot, and the element from set J, New York, Seattle dot New York, and San Diego dot Chicago. Between these two elements, we need to use comma to separate them because they are in the same line. If we only want to consider Seattle to New York and San Diego to New York, then we can define a subset like this. We can also write in another way, in this way. Both of them are the same. Finally, I want to mention that we can assign elements to a subset after this subset is declared. That means we can change elements of the subset. So the subset is also called dynamic sets. This is because the elements of this subset can be changed. This is also very important in GAMS. This is because we can use those dynamic subsets to control the constraints or parameters we want to include in the mathematical formulation. Okay, now let's go to GAMS and then to implement the set into GAMS for the mathematical formulation we developed. As we did in the GAMS tutorial 1, we use dollar and title to give the name of this GAMS file, transportation example using set station. Then we can define sets. In the mathematical formulation, we have two sets, set I and set J. We start with the keywords set or sets. Let's use sets. Then space. Then we give the name of the set I. Then we use some text to describe the meaning of this set. We use plants. Then we have two slashes. In these two slashes, we need to input the elements of this set. In this set, we have two elements, Seattle and San Diego. So we put Seattle, San Diego. As we mentioned, multi-word names are not allowed in GAMS, so we need to use hyphen to connect these two words. Then between these two elements, we use comma to separate them. If we want to finish this statement, then we can add semicolon. And then we can use another set statement to define the other set J. We start with the keyword set or sets. Let's use sets. Give the name of the set J, and then provide text to describe the meaning of this set. Market. And then two slashes. Between these two slashes, we need to input the elements of this set. There are three elements. They are Topeka, Chicago, and New York. We also use hyphen to connect the word New and York. And the different elements are separated using comma because we define them in one line. After we finish, then we add semicolon. If we want to define these two sets in one set statement, then we can remove this keyword set and also remove the first semicolon. Then we finish this set statement to define two sets. Next, we need to define parameters